course not. It's only the beginning.
When Grease hit theaters in 1978, it wasn't just another movie. It became a cultural storm. With John Travolta's charm, Olivia Newton-John's sweet voice, and songs that made everyone want to dance, the film raced past $390 million at the box office. But behind all the polished hair and slick dance moves, the set wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Hidden bloopers and goofs slipped through editing, and one scene in particular still makes fans stop and rewind. So let's revisit this timeless classic in a whole new way. Join us as we take a closer look at Grease, the mistakes that never got cut, and see why many thought the movie was ahead of its time. A film that defined an era. In 1978, a film came along that became bigger than anyone expected. That film was Grease. Directed by Randall Kleiser in what was his first big movie, it was written by Bronte Woodard and adapted by Alan Carr. The movie was based on the hit 1972 stage musical by Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey. At its heart, the story followed Danny Zuko, a greaser played by John Travolta, and Sandy Olsen, an Australian exchange student played by Olivia Newton-John. The two shared a summer romance, but things got complicated once school started. What began as a simple love story set in the 1950s turned into a worldwide hit. Grease was released in the United States on June 16, 1978 by Paramount Pictures. The response was huge. The film was not only loved by critics but also by audiences. In fact, it became the highest-grossing musical movie at the time. That's how powerful its impact was. The soundtrack was just as popular. By the end of 1978, it became the second best-selling album of the year in the United States, only behind Saturday Night Fever, which, interestingly, also starred John Travolta. The song, Hopelessly Devoted to You, even earned a nomination for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards. The film picked up 5 Golden Globe nominations too, including Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, and nods for its songs Grease and You're the One That I Want. Decades later, in 2020, the Library of Congress selected Grease for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, calling it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. That means it isn't just a fun film, it's part of history now. Of course, the story didn't end there. A sequel, Grease 2, came out in 1982, starring Maxwell Caulfield and Michelle Pfeiffer, but only a few of the original stars returned. More recently, in 2023, a prequel series called Grease: Rise of the Pink Ladies appeared on Paramount+, though it only lasted 1 season. That shows you just how much people still want more of the Grease world, even after all these years. But if the film was so huge, what made it connect with so many people? To answer that, we have to step inside the world of Rydell High and meet the characters who brought the story to life. The story that won hearts. The movie was set in 1958. It opened with Danny and Sandy falling in love during the summer. Sandy, worried about never seeing Danny again, was comforted when he told her that their story was only the beginning. That line set the tone for everything that came after. When the school year began, Danny reunited with his greaser gang, the T-Birds, Sonny, Putzie, Duty, and his best friend Kinnicky. Meanwhile, Sandy ended up at Rydell High, too. She quickly became friends with the Pink Ladies, Marty, Jan, Frenchie, and their leader, Betty Rizzo. At first, Danny and Sandy didn't know they were at the same school, and both told their friends about their summer romance without realizing they were talking about each other. When the Pink Ladies figured it out, they reunited Danny and Sandy at a pep rally. Sandy was thrilled, but Danny pretended to act cool in front of his friends and made fun of her. That moment created tension and sent Sandy into the arms of Tom, a football player. But Danny wasn't ready to let go. He tried to win Sandy back, even joining sports to impress her. Eventually, they found their way back together, but not without more drama. At Frenchie's sleepover, Sandy felt out of place as Rizzo mocked her good girl image. Frenchie, meanwhile, confessed she was dropping out of school to attend beauty school. Rizzo left with Kinnicky, and the T-Birds showed up to crash the party. The movie was filled with moments like that, where friendships, heartbreaks, and teenage mischief collided. The car, Greased Lightnin', became a symbol of the T-Birds' pride, with Kinnicky planning to drag race it at Thunder Road. Later, Danny ended up driving it himself in a race, beating rival greaser Leo. Meanwhile, Sandy kept going back and forth with her feelings for Danny. At a school dance, Danny and Sandy started together, but she was pushed aside and he danced with Cha-Cha instead, leading them to win the contest. The drama between Rizzo and Kenickie also played out, with Rizzo believing she was pregnant before finding out she wasn't. By the time of the big carnival, everything came to a head. Danny shocked his gang by showing up in a Letterman sweater, trying to show Sandy he could change for her. Sandy stunned everyone when she transformed her look, arriving in a leather outfit that was bold and rebellious. The couple reconciled, and the movie ended with the group vowing to always be together. In a magical final scene, Danny and Sandy drove off into the sky, leaving behind one of the most unforgettable endings in film history. But the story itself wasn't the only thing that grabbed attention. The cast made Grease unforgettable, and how those stars came together is a story worth telling. The cast that made it shine. John Travolta's role as Danny Zuko almost didn't happen. Before he was chosen, Henry Winkler, who played Fonzie on Happy Days, was offered the role but turned it down, worried he'd be typecast. Travolta was then given the part, partly because of his past work with Robert Stigwood on Saturday Night Fever, and because of a 3-picture deal he had. Director Randall Kleiser had worked with him before in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, so there was already trust between them. Olivia Newton-John wasn't the first choice either. Many other actresses were considered, including Carrie Fisher and Marie Osmond. Osmond even came close but decided against it when she realized how much the character of Sandy would change by the end of the movie. Newton-John eventually agreed, even though she was worried she was too old for the part at 28. To make her comfortable, producers changed Sandy's background, making her Australian so Newton-John wouldn't need to fake an accent. She also agreed to a smaller salary in exchange for star billing and script changes. This gave her the chance to shape Sandy into a stronger character, not just the sweet girl. Travolta himself pushed for changes too. For example, the song Greased Lightnin' was supposed to be sung by Kenickie, played by Jeff Conaway, but Travolta convinced producers to let him sing it instead. That shows just how much influence he already had at the time. Stockard Channing, who played Rizzo, was 33 years old, the oldest of the group playing high schoolers. Director Kleiser even made her and others take a crow's feet test to see if they could look young enough on camera. Channing fought to keep her song "There Are Worse Things I Could Do" in the film, and it became one of her defining moments. Jamie Donnelly was the only actor to reprise her Broadway role, playing Jan. By then, her hair had started to gray, so she had to dye it for the role. Lorenzo Lamas, who played Tom, was cast last minute after other choices fell through. His role had no lines, and he even bleached his hair to look different from the T-Birds. Frankie Avalon was cast as the teen angel, but Elvis Presley was also considered before he passed away. Avalon's role singing Beauty School Dropout ended up reviving his career. Even more surprising, adult film actor Harry Reams was originally cast as Coach Calhoun, but Paramount dropped him, worried about his reputation, and gave the part to Sid Caesar. These casting choices, some surprising and some risky, show how many different directions the film could have gone. But with the final lineup, it became iconic. Still, the way the movie was made behind the camera was just as fascinating, and the choices that shaped the film. Director Randall Kleiser made several big changes from the original stage musical. The original setting was in Chicago, but he moved it to a more suburban area based on his own teenage years in Philadelphia. That small change gave the film a brighter, more relatable feel. Writer Warren Casey, one of the creators of the original musical, wanted a different theme song, but producer Alan Carr and Robert Stigwood turned to Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees at the last minute. That decision gave us the now famous Grease theme that everyone remembers. Casting decisions also shaped the film in big ways. Before Olivia Newton-John was chosen, Alan Carr considered several actresses, but in the end, her music career and natural charm made her perfect for the role. Interestingly, after the movie, Newton-John's own career followed a path similar to Sandy's transformation. Her next album, Totally Hot, showed her in leather and with a more daring style, almost echoing her final look in the film. For Stockard Channing, the film gave her a chance to prove herself again after years away from the spotlight. She wasn't just cast for her looks. She lobbied to keep her key song in the movie, and it became a highlight. Then there was Jeff Conaway, who had played Danny on Broadway. It must have been strange for him to step into the role of Kenickie and then lose his big number to Travolta. These moments showed the politics and behind-the-scenes changes that shaped the final product. Even smaller details had stories behind them. Lorenzo Lamas only got the part of Tom because others dropped out, and Jamie Donnelly had to hide her real age by dyeing her hair darker. Frankie Valli was even given the choice between singing the theme song or appearing in the film. He picked the theme, and that became one of the smartest moves of his career. Every choice mattered, and every role played its part in shaping Grease. Together, they created something larger than life, a movie that not only broke box office records but also lived on for decades as a cultural icon. And with all those choices and all that history, fans still find themselves watching again, not just for the songs and the love story, but also for the hidden mistakes and bloopers that somehow made it into the final cut. But before we take a look at that, let's first talk about the casting choices that could have changed everything. Grease is loved for its stars, but the casting could have been very different. Director Randall Kleiser admitted he had doubts about Olivia Newton-John as Sandy. He said, "I knew she was perfect for conservative Sandy, but I was privately worried that she wouldn't be able to pull the transformation off." His worries turned out to be unnecessary. On screen, she nailed both sides of Sandy, proving she could handle sweet innocence and bold rebellion. John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John's chemistry also played a huge part in the film's magic. Kleiser remembered how nervous Olivia was during her first screen test. He and Travolta tried to make her feel comfortable. The director recalled, "John treated her more like a little sister, and you could tell they had this connection from the get-go. They would laugh at jokes the rest of us weren't in on or just share a look and understand each other. It was wonderful to watch." That kind of natural bond carried into their performances and made the romance believable. But here's where it gets even more surprising. Olivia almost didn't get the part. Carrie Fisher, fresh from Star Wars, was also considered for Sandy. Imagine how different the movie might have been if Princess Leia had become the sweet new girl at Rydell High. Henry Winkler, known worldwide as Fonzie from Happy Days, also turned down the role of Danny Zuko. At the time, Winkler didn't want to be typecast as another leather jacket bad boy. Years later, he admitted he regretted the decision. In his own words, "But you're typecast anyway, and it's not now that I'm like, oh, I should have done the role. It's that I turned it down intellectually instead of instinctually. Listen to your gut. It knows everything." With his usual humor, Winkler even joked, "I go home and I have a Diet Coke. John Travolta, who has done the movie, goes home and buys a plane." That single choice shifted Hollywood history, giving Travolta the role of a lifetime. But the surprises don't end with casting. Some secrets from filming are even stranger. Wardrobe nightmares and on-set drama. One of the most famous looks in Grease is Sandy's final transformation. Olivia Newton-John wore those tight black leather pants, and audiences couldn't take their eyes off her. But behind the scenes, it was a different story. The pants were so tight she had to be sewn into them every morning and literally ripped out at the end of the day. It looked iconic on screen, but Olivia must have thought of it as pure discomfort. That's the price of movie magic. The Pink Ladies also had their own wardrobe issues. Jamie Donnelly, who played Jan, was 30 years old at the time of filming and already had gray hair. To fit in as a high school student, she had to dye her hair to appear younger. It was a quick fix, but it worked for the camera. Rizzo's story takes things to another level. Stockard Channing revealed that her famous hickeys weren't made with makeup. They were real, given to her by Jeff Conaway, who played Kenickie. It added a level of realism, though not exactly the Hollywood method most fans imagine. Conaway himself faced struggles during production. He hurt himself on set, was prescribed painkillers, and sadly that marked the beginning of his battle with addiction. What started during Grease followed him for years, leading to a tragic outcome in 2011. Another serious situation happened with Annette Charles, who played Cha-Cha. After filming the intense drag race scene, she suffered from an ectopic pregnancy and needed emergency surgery that very night. The show went on, but it was clear that some actors paid a high price behind the glamour of the film. Still, despite the pain and struggles, the cast delivered performances that became legendary. But not everything on set was heavy. Some of it was downright strange. Funny fixes and surprising secrets. When you watch the big school dance sequence, you'll notice that almost every character is showing off their best moves. But if you look closely, one character is missing. Dinah Manoff, who played Marty, was left out because she was a terrible dancer. She didn't get to join the hand jive or any of the big dance shots. It looks like fun on screen, but for Dinah, the directors thought it was best she sit it out. Another quirky change came in the music. Fans loved the number Greased Lightnin', but here's the secret. It wasn't supposed to be Travolta's song. Originally, that was Kenicki's big moment. Jeff Conaway was meant to sing it, but Travolta, already a rising star, convinced the director to give the song to him instead. Conaway wasn't happy about it at first, but eventually gave in. Travolta's performance in that number is unforgettable, but it came at a cost to his co-star. The carnival scene also had its own chaos. The final day of filming was supposed to happen at a real carnival, but the location shut down before shooting was done. The crew had to recreate parts of the carnival on set, which meant the scene you see is half real carnival, half Hollywood trickery. Watching the film, you'd never guess. But behind the cameras, it was all smoke and mirrors. And while the actors played teenagers, their off-screen ages told another story. Stockard Channing was 33, Jamie Donnelly was 30, and even Lorenzo Lamas, who played Tom, was a last-minute replacement with no lines but a fresh bleach job to look different from the T-Birds. All of these little cover-ups made Grease look smooth, but the truth was far from perfect. And then there's the king of rock himself, Elvis Presley, whose story with Grease adds another layer of intrigue. Elvis, Oscars, and other shocks. Elvis Presley was offered the role of the teen angel, the character who sings Beauty School Dropout. He turned it down, and the part went to Frankie Avalon instead. Still, Elvis didn't disappear from the movie entirely. In the song Sandra Dee, there's a line that references him. What most fans don't know is that the lyric was added on the very day Elvis died, August 16, 1977. It turned the line into an eerie, lasting tribute. Frankie Avalon's turn as the teen angel ended up reviving his career, but it's hard not to wonder what Elvis might have done with the role. Even with all the fame, Grease wasn't showered with awards. It became the highest-grossing movie of 1978, but it received only one Oscar nomination. That single nod went to Olivia Newton-John's ballad, Hopelessly Devoted to You. Ironically, the song was added long after filming had wrapped. It wasn't even part of the original plan, yet it became one of the movie's most loved songs, proving that sometimes last-minute choices create the most lasting impact. These details remind us that Grease was full of surprises, both on screen and off. Casting shakeups, wardrobe disasters, real-life struggles, and unexpected song changes all shaped the movie we know today. The final product looked effortless, but behind the curtain was a world of challenges, secrets, and lucky decisions that turned a small musical into one of the most iconic films ever made. Speaking of which, those surprises start right away. In the very first scenes, tiny errors slip past the edit. Blink and you miss it slips at the start. Grease opens with a sweet summer romance, but the first mistakes arrive fast. While Danny hugs Sandy on the beach, he's on her left in one shot, then on her right in the next. A quick continuity flip that breaks the moment if you spot it. During Summer Nights, Rizzo starts to put on her sunglasses while stretched across a school bench. A beat later, she's pushing the girls without the shades. And then, suddenly, they're back on her face. Soon after, Sandy shows up in her cheer uniform with a long red thread running through the lettering. One cut later, it's gone like it was never there. At the sleepover, the girls chat while the bed's headboard is cluttered with stuff. Seconds after, it's magically tidy with only a fan left, as if the room cleaned itself between lines. Then, Greased Lightnin' revs up. Danny circles a stripped-down car sitting on bare wheels. But in the very next shot, two white mattresses appear on the floor, likely there to cushion jumps, before vanishing again. 5 scenes, 5 quick changes, and each one tells you the same thing. The film moves so fast that small fixes slip through, and the mid-movie set pieces keep the surprises coming. Dance floor distractions and wardrobe wobbles. When Danny tries basketball, his jersey spells out Rydell High School, but the team around him wears tops that only say Rydell. A tiny mismatch that still stands out in a lineup. An hour in, the school dance lights up the gym and the camera catches more than it should. The film crew can be seen sitting on the bleachers with modern outfits and gear that don't belong in the Grease era. The big cowboy prop over the floor also misbehaves. In one shot, he sheds white paper everywhere, but in earlier angles, he never had any paper on his arms or head to begin with, so there's nothing that should be falling. Watch Danny and Sandy's dance closely, and you'll catch another switch. He starts in sleek formal shoes with a heel. Then, during the trickiest moves, he's suddenly wearing flat black sneakers, the kind of quick swap that helps a dancer but jumps out once you notice it. These aren't plot-breaking errors, but they pull you out of the moment for a second, especially when you're scanning the frame for the next big number. And as the story turns from dances to tough choices, the little stumbles keep stacking up in the quiet scenes too. Small details, big giveaways. Right before Rizzo's solo, she talks with Sandy, and Sandy's hair barrette can't make up its mind. It looks pink at first, then a cut later it's white. A simple color change that the camera treats like nothing happened. When Danny joins the track team to win Sandy's heart, he shows up at the carnival in a white jacket with 2 bold red lines on his arm. Those stripes mark how many years he's run, so he should be wearing only 1, not 2, which turns the jacket into a silent slip. And in the final rush of "You're the one that I want," Danny hits the floor, stands up with dirt on his black t-shirt, and even gets Sandy's dirty shoe pressed on him. Just a couple of shots later, the shirt is spotless, like someone pressed reset in the middle of the dance. These last errors are simple continuity breaks, colors that shift, stripes that overcount, stains that vanish, but they stick because they happen in big, emotional beats. You're watching characters change, make choices, and seal the story, and then the details don't add up. That's the charm and the tease of Grease. Perfect songs, bright energy, and tiny mistakes that live forever once you've seen them. Speaking of which, for more than 40 years, Grease has felt like part of everyday life. People sing it at weddings, dress up as pink ladies and T-birds, and watch it on repeat. Some fans say it sits in the culture like the Beatles or onion on a sausage sandwich. So normal you barely question it. For those who grew up after 1978, some fans felt the teens at Rydell High were as real as the ones in Clueless or Looking for Ali Brandy. But when some viewers revisit the film as adults, they say it feels different. Grease through adult eyes. The songs still stick, and many can recite Summer Nights and remember the school dance steps by heart. Yet some fans point out small lines and quick moments that hit harder now. They note parts that feel rough, like the T-Birds asking if Sandy put up a fight in Summer Nights, or Kenickie calling his car a real pussy wagon that girls will cream over in Grease Lightning. Some viewers also highlight background bits like a T-Bird peeking up girls' skirts while friends laugh, or Marty saying a grown man spiked her drink. When fans look at the lead girls, some say the roles feel very split. Sandy is the good blonde, kind, neat, modest, but also expected to be sexy in the end. Rizzo is the rule breaker, funny and sharp, but judged by others. Some viewers point to Rizzo being called sloppy seconds and facing gossip about a pregnancy as examples. Others note that the film still shows friendship coming back together, since Rizzo and Sandy make peace near the end, and Rizzo gets Kenickie and also her period, which ends the rumors. On Sandy's final change, some fans quote Olivia Newton-John's light take. "It's a movie and it's a fun story and I have never taken that too seriously." Others quote Stockard Channing, who called Sandy's shift a moment of empowerment and said Rizzo was someone who enjoyed sex, which some fans view as rare and important for the 1970s. These reactions show how different people watch the same scenes. And that mix of bright music and uneasy moments sets up the next question some viewers raise. Was Grease only dated, or was it also ahead of its time? Problem moments versus forward steps. Some fans say it's both. They argue that parts feel stuck in the past, while other parts feel bold. Some believe a film that places blonde beauty and virginity on a pedestal might not make $160 million today. Yet many think a story where young women choose their look and their desire would still connect now. Viewers who hold this view say the movie throws clumsy ideas and fresh ideas into the same story, and that clash is why it still sparks debate. Some point to Beauty School Dropout, where a middle-aged teen angel tells a teen to return to high school, and say the scene feels odd. But the same fans also highlight Mrs. Murdoch, the shop teacher who teaches the boys about cars with skill and confidence, and Frenchie, who feels lost and unsure about her future. moments that some consider modern and relatable. Others repeat Stockard Channing's words that Rizzo was someone who enjoyed sex, and say that presence mattered. Many also echo Newton-John's easy stance. It's a movie, and it's a fun story, using it to frame the makeover as playful. At the same time, some viewers keep pointing to skirt peeking, drink spiking, and name-calling as parts that land hard. Fans who focus on this mix say the film can make you wince at a line and then nod at a sharp truth. They also say you can roll your eyes at the car flying into the clouds and still feel the rush of the final chorus. According to this view, Grease has lasted not in spite of the split, but because of it. Just when some think it's dated and reductive, a character says or does something that feels forward for its time, and before there's room to process it, the music starts again. That push and pull is what some fans believe keeps people watching, keeps them talking, and keeps the song stuck in their heads, setting up the next scene, where the energy rises and the questions only get louder. What's a moment in Grease that felt fun when you first watched it, but looks very different to you now? And do you see Sandy's big change as empowering, or do you think it sends the wrong message? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.